everyone's here. We're at ASC24, beautiful Hamburg, Germany, and it is genuinely beautiful. Great weather, great show. Here with, well, I don't really need to introduce these guys, but I guess I'm going to have to anyway. Jack Dongarra on my left, known as, well, Jack Dongarra. Torsten Hoefler, who I think soon will be known as just the Torsten. He is really coming up, just as Jack Dongarra is known as Dr. Jack. Also, I've dubbed him the Frank Sinatra of HPC,
oh, there you go.
which I just dearly love. So the reason we're talking together right now is that Jack has time to kill before he has to go to the airport and said, hey, why not? But no, what we were taking a look at the cluster competition downstairs, but all three of us were in Shanghai about a month ago at the ASC HPC forum and at their massive student cluster competition. What'd you think? You've seen those before, but...
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. You know, they had, I think, 25 teams
25.
In competition. And
physical competition, physical hardware.
You know, they had a large room with stadium, and they had those teams working, a lot of noise. I've been to a few where the room was quite confined, and I can remember a time when they brought in ice in buckets. That's
the infamous ice station zebra cluster competition. It was in a smaller room, kind of like the one here, but it was divided up, and they put 20 teams in. And this was in the days when it was like 8 nodes per team.
That's right.
And they were starting to thermal out in the center of the room on the first day of the competition, like the practice runs.
Yes.
And I got there early the next morning, and there were 75 to 100 kids in those red volunteer shirts just standing around. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Truck pulls up, back door goes up. They bring out a huge stack of these red plastic tubs. 2 kids grab a tub, they put an enormous block of ice, seriously like this, in the tubs. Those kids slide it in. Next, 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 next. They had an array. You ever tried to pick your way around them?
It was chaos.
But the thing, and I'm thinking, this can't work, but they had no alternatives. They'd gotten every big air conditioner in town.
Yeah.
It did work.
It worked. It worked.
It was
they were able to do it, yes. Yeah. So we don't have that problem here. This is a different situation.
No, noticeably
in Shanghai.
Yes.
Shanghai is was a very well orchestrated event with even though there were 25 teams, it was well organized.
It was. It was. And what did you think, Torsten? I think it's the first time you've really seen something like that.
Yeah, correct. I'm actually shocked hearing about the background, how this came into shape. But I have to say, it was one of the most professionally organized events I have seen at that scale. I mean, it was a stadium. They had the stadium wall was showing the live energy consumption or power consumption of every single team.
And the sirens
and the sirens were going off, and then you walk through the thing, and the siren goes off, and you check which team was actually currently running over power. So that was super fascinating. Also the professionalism that these students were actually exhibiting at the show floor or at the stadium floor, but also then later when we were judging them based on their little presentations, that was amazing. And
wasn't that interesting?
Yeah. There was one team that was just writing their own code to control the fans, which is on GitHub and which actually had a significant number of stars.
Yes, and that's why they won.
Yeah,
that's why they had, I think they won last year, but again, they hand wrote code because the professional stuff to ratchet the power up and down dynamically wasn't good enough. Exactly. It wasn't precise enough, didn't control enough things. But it's a really impressive event. I don't know, I mean, you know from sitting in the room, those applications, those workloads, difficult.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, ASC was the first one to really get deep into AI, and to where we started to see a lot of GPUs. So it's a really impressive job, and I hope it becomes a routine for you.
Yeah.
And you still, too.
I'm happy to carry on. Yes,
it's a good trip, a good time.
It's fun.
And they really take good care of everybody, including the students. And I'm on kind of a mission to try and get more Western universities, European, American, to give it a try.
Sure.
But to go in prepared. That's the important thing.
It is. Yeah. The maturity, the teams that were there before, it shows. They understand what to do, how to do it, and it's an easier road for them to get it through. Yeah.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed the focus on AI, like you mentioned, it came up, and actually very practical examples. So they had to take a large language model, a Chinese large language model, and they had to quantize it themselves down to an efficient representation of 4 bits. And then they had to run it very efficiently. So which was very fascinating to me, because actually more than half of the teams used the method that I co-developed with a friend, the GPTQ method, to do the quantization. I was like, wow, they're top-notch science, essentially, because that was only published last year. And so they're already using it in the cluster challenge, meaning that they're really on top of things. Right? So this was quite fascinating.
That's impressive.
Yeah, exactly. So super top-notch
That's very cool. And there's going to be a lot of content. I took a lot of video there, interviews with all of the teams and things. We were going to do this interview in our hotel, but travel arrangements and all of that, so we're picking it up here. But that was a great experience. And I guess while I have you, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in HPC AI today. In my mind, I've never seen the industry both as controlled by some things and as chaotic in terms of the decisions that customers/users need to make. What do you think?
High performance computing. The only thing that is present is change, and we go through it all the time. It's just part of the way in which things go. New technologies come, new programming models are developed, new hardware is in place. We have a lot of things being experimented with and put together. We have tremendous ability with the hardware, with the GPUs, and it sort of encourages us to come up with newer methods that can be deployed on those devices so that we can effectively utilize the potential power there. And that's true for numerical things as well as machine learning aspects of it. So it sort of combines that today, and that's what we see. So I think it's an exciting time to be involved in high performance computing, just as it was an exciting time 10 or 20 years ago. It's exciting now. It's recreating, reinventing, and bringing things to the floor which weren't there, that are being put in place to help. And machine learning is one of the biggest, it will have the biggest impact in terms of how we do things, just in the way in which it will allow us to explore something in a much deeper way, and then use that information to help refine the solutions that using the traditional techniques.
It's kind of funny. I'm going to ask you the same question, but it was something you said about the change in HPC. I remember a time not all that long ago where after Linux and Beowulf clusters came out and sort of seemed to conquer the world, that there were a lot of people saying, yeah, there's not going to be anything new here. This is just, this is it. There's really no differentiation available between hardware and clusters. It's just rack and stack.
Yeah.
How things change. So, Torsten, what do you think?
I really liked your controlled versus chaotic, because basically, but it's very true also what you said, Jack. The HPC community has been in constant change over the time, but there was always the control and chaotic segment to it. And now the new one, we're basically controlled by the emerging market of AI and the industry moving there, because it's much, I wouldn't say it's much larger than HPC, because actually AI is an HPC workload. So it's by definition a subset of HPC.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it is about high performance, and high performance computing encapsulates everything. So now we are controlled by that workload that at the beginning was very small, but now grows exponentially and outgrows all the other workloads that are HPC. For example, modeling and simulation, or the traditional HPC workloads. By now that market is significantly smaller, and the systems that are being deployed are significantly smaller than the AI systems being deployed. But then, as you said, it's also chaotic because nobody understands where the future is really going, because we're exploring a completely new workload. Everybody optimizes for that workload one way or another. We had a Cambrian explosion of startups. Many of those are dying down. Many of those who were banking on early deep learning models like CNNs, for example, they decided to not have any DRAM memory or any large off-chip memories. That was a big mistake. You realize this the moment the transformer networks came, large language models, they cannot live without that. Today, the share of large language models is the biggest, and you need a lot of memory. So it's very dangerous and it's an interesting minefield for people who optimize in that field.
But let me ask you this. My feeling is, and I'm sure I know as much as both of you do. Well, no, I do not. But my sense is that in 3 to 5 years, AI won't be this separate thing. That AI is going to be baked into the cake. And when I did my first road trip of all of the Western U.S. labs in 2018, they were all saying we're infusing AI into everything we're doing to cut down on brute force. I mean, does that make sense that AI doesn't become this special separate category?
Yeah, actually, do you remember 10 years ago when we talked about GPUs, like this alien thing, and GPUs being this, oh my God, and then everybody was talking about heterogeneous computing and extreme heterogeneity. Today, it's just that's what HPC is. Look at the top 500 list. How many systems have accelerators in the top 10, right?
2010 was the first time students used them in the competition, undergrads.
It's going to go the same way.
But the thing is, elephant in the room, NVIDIA has 80 to 90% of that market, and thus a lot of control over where those GPUs go. That's the scarce resource. Both NVIDIA and AMD are going to sell every one they could make. This can't last. Alternatives will come up, or will they?
Well, okay, so AMD has GPUs, Intel has GPUs, NVIDIA has GPUs. So the number 2 machine uses Intel parts, so it's there. And so will there be other GPUs that come? Can they compete?
Or something that's more attuned to different workloads.
Right. So NVIDIA today, is selling this product into the machine learning space. That really is the market that's holding them captive, I would say. And we have a hard time getting NVIDIA parts in the traditional scientific computing space. And part of that's because the limited supply is going over there. But the other thing is the cost associated with the NVIDIA product is pretty high. And they can get it over there, and the scientific community has a harder time with it. So that says there's an opening for alternate things. And as you point out, AMD and Intel are certainly providing some alternate, and other manufacturers may step up to that. But that'll be a hard thing for them.
My sense is every time NVIDIA makes another 10% stock gain, 50 more PhDs start working in labs in their garage to come up with the next big.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
that's right. That's right.
But actually, there's a new kid on the block in some sense. So some of those startups that I mentioned earlier, they're now gaining significant traction also in the HPC area. And yesterday in the session on HPC in Asia, we've actually heard from Core 42 that they're deploying this massive machine, this massive Cerebras machine, where the chip itself is 9 square meters. I mean, together, summed up.
Wafer scale computing.
It's just an amazing machine, and so that's a new kid on the block. And for scientific computing, it's going to be very interesting because that machine does not support FP64. So that machine supports FP32, but now there are many techniques how you can use FP32, even integer hardware, to emulate FP64. That you have to ask back.
It was only that easy, right?
But I think there are also going to emerge some alternatives that do have significant FP64 that are aimed. I mean, this market is not the biggest market. It really never has been. And it's not that traditional HPC is getting smaller, I don't think. It's just not growing as fast as AI. And it's, again, anybody's guess is what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be something less expected. I don't think anybody can really predict how all this shakes out.
Well, there'll be a change, and again, there'll be disruption and chaos, and then coming to order again. So there's
opportunity.
It's a fun time. This is the way the area, the sector works. So it's a good time.
Yeah. So you're both having fun still.
Absolutely.
You're not bored.
No.
I'm living the dream.
And actually, part of that dream is wrapping this up so you can get to the airport.
I can get to the airport.
And go off to your next guest appearance.
That's right, somewhere.
Well, thank you both. Really appreciate you taking the time, and we will catch up with you again soon.
Look forward to it, Dan.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye-bye. Thanks for watching.